Hey, Lewis, Kirk, I want to talk to you about Angelo. This is September 13 today. So overall, big uptick in professionalism, matching his tempo and vibe. I noticed a real calm presence, perfect. Um, you tend to lead with your questions. Like, so if he says, "Hey, I watched that video," you'll tend to say something like, "It was great, wasn't it?" Which is a leading question. A better question is a non-leading question. Hey, I watched that video. Really, how was that video for you? Right? Because then you're getting real information. When you ask a leading question, you tend to get an answer in the direction you're leading, right? Or maybe the opposite of. But when you ask an open-ended question, you might actually get real information. So notice when you're leading, trying to be positive, upbeat, you put in a little phrase. Don't do that. You want actual real information so you know what you're dealing with rather than a sort of a cleaned up version of what you're dealing with, a cleaned up version meaning he's answering questions in line with your leading, right? You're leading the question. So he says, I watched the video and you said it was great, wasn't it? And he goes, yeah, but maybe it wasn't that great for him and you didn't find out. Okay, cool. Um, nice story about Nolly. You're actually becoming enrolling, which is great. I forgot what it was, but you just kind of broke it down. Oh, yeah. Like why coaching? You kind of answered the question, why coaching? Like Nolly's had all these programs. They're really great, but nobody watches them. And that's why coaches. So I like that approach. I think we might have discussed that or whatever, but I like that. Okay. Include questions with your story rather than so you're telling a story. Da 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 da. Look for opportunities to ask questions to invite people into your story. So you're sharing, and that was really great, and that sounds good, doesn't it? Don't do that. You might share and look for opportunities to go, well, how does that sound to you, or how did that land on you, or what does that feel like for you, or what did just invite people into your story rather than quote the leading statements. And this is a little more subtle because you can invite somebody into your story and then get derailed, right? They can kind of take over. But there's something in there like invite people into your sharing a little bit more. And we can talk about that. That might be subtle, but this is the first of like 10 or 15 calls. So I think, that'll come up again. And if it doesn't, we don't need to worry about it. Okay, don't narrate third person while you're sharing. You'll share something and then you'll comment on your sharing like, oh, I just wanted to let you know that, so da 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 da. Don't do the third person narrating about what you're sharing. It's exhausting, it takes time, it's a sign of insecurity and lack of confidence, or at least how it comes across. So say what you want to say, have it be said, listen for the volley, and move on. Um, Anyway, I think that's complete. We could talk about that more if you want. I'm interested in your promise of 3 to 4 extra deals. I know you and I talked about that, but you stated it as like kind of a promise. So I want to dig into that with you a little bit and just see what your reality is about that. Notice I'm not leading in that question. So I'm modeling not leading the question. So I'm not saying, oh my God, what are you doing? 3 to 4 deals promise? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I want to know what your thinking is on that so we can talk about it. That's a non-leading question. You see? Okay, cool. What would it take to have what you need? All right, so he's saying can't move forward, don't have money. I have this amount of money, not that amount of money. La 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 la. So what I recommend is have him go to work on solving the problem for himself immediately. So you really take into communication. Wow, I got it, $200 and this, that, and the other. Okay, cool. Well, look, just since I'm a professional coach, and it's just you and me here, we're just kind of playing around, let me ask you kind of a bold question, if I may. And I go, yeah, okay. Well, cool. Well, what would it take? Like literally, what would it take in your life or just in any way? What would it take for you to be able to move forward and buy this program and have the life of your dreams? See, that's an interesting question. What would it take for you to have what you need to move forward and get what you want in life? That's kind of an interesting question. Okay. Uptick in matching and professionalism, yes. What impresses you? So he says, I saw the Nolly video and it was great. Fantastic. That is a meaningless statement. You can make it a bountiful statement by adding the question, hey, what impressed you about Nolly? What impressed you about that video? What did you see that you liked? Can you just tell me a little bit more about that so I can have a better understanding of what's important to you? Do you see? When somebody says a general positive statement, yeah, watch Nolly, great video, hit the pause button, dude. Hey, it was a great video? Yeah. Tell me about that. Like get interested, get interested in what they're saying and how they're moving around in the conversation, right? So you're getting closer, right? But he's shifting around in the conversation a little bit, and I want you to be on him like a Ferrari, you know, like tight turns, right? Okay, what impressed you? Okay, also, this piece of coaching may or may not be appropriate. It's appropriate generally, right? Big time, but it may not be appropriate to the situation. I'll explain. So you left with a problem. Okay, this is really interesting. I don't think we've had this conversation. This is a real fun one. So if you notice, when people have conversations, somebody often leaves with a problem, like something to do, something to follow up on, some promise of action, you know, like that, right? And you left with his problem. He's got $200. He wants you to go find something that he can do with his $200 and come back and tell him about it. So you literally picked up his problem, and he doesn't have the problem anymore. You do. All right. And if you notice that in conversations, powerful people and leaders are very good at leaving people with like transferring the problem over to them, right? That's the design of it, like an executive assistant or a manager to an owner or something, right? Their job is to pick up the problems and solve them. But just notice in conversations, I don't know if you notice that. Now, the reason it may not be appropriate for this call is because maybe you wanted a reason to follow up with him, in which case leaving with a problem is great, right? Because then you come back with the solution to the problem. So that's probably worth a little bit of conversation. And one question that I have for you that I didn't hear you deal with is, what if he has $200, what could he do with $200 right here? Let him do that, circle back around in a month or two after he's had some success and pick him up, kind of like that. All right, brother, that's Angelo. The intention of this video is it can only be seen if you have the direct address, so it's not like live or public, okay? So, all right, cool.